What's up, traders? Before we dive into the video, I just want to quickly remind you guys about our Black Friday sale that is taking place from now until November 29th at 12 a.m. Eastern. You can now use the code BFCM, which stands for Black Friday Cyber Monday, to get 20% off everything site-wide other than one-on-one mentorship. So make sure to take advantage of that, and I hope to see you in the private community very soon. Cheers. And we are live with the first episode of the Tilt Talk podcast. Today I have my good friend BuddhaJones, who has been a longtime member of the TTN Private Community and also the first trader in the trading network Hot Seat. So for you guys who are not familiar, the Hot Seat is something new that we have just implemented where we will basically bring on community members onto our live stream, and we live stream every single day starting at 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. And we allow the traders in the hot seat to stream their charts. We will give them critiques in real time and really give them an experience that is unique, that creates a little bit of added pressure and accountability to their trading. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to talk to Buddha about his experience in the hot seat, being the first hot seat trader. We're going to chat a little bit about his experience or his trading journey in general. And we're kind of just going to go with the flow. So bear with us. This is the first podcast, but I think you guys will find a lot of value in it. And that is that. So Buddha, with that, I will ask you, if you don't mind, to just give us a little bit of background on your trading experience, you know, how your journey started and how you found yourself in the hot seat, so to speak.
Sure. First, shout out to my mom. Never thought I'd make it this far, but we're here. So,
cheers to Mama Jones.
Cheers to Mama Jones. For me, it's definitely been quite a journey. I think I started out trading small ticker stocks, small volume stocks, trash stocks, basically. Back in 2014, got into the Tim Sykes game.
Okay.
Didn't really learn much, but went to a few conferences, and I mean, I tried to get into that, and I didn't have a strategy when I left, but I knew how to gamble. I knew how to like press buttons. It's kind of all that did for me, and it wasn't any fault of their own. It was really just me where I was at the time. And then I found through the first Bitcoin kind of boom, I found Crown's Crypto Cave. And took his course and kind of grew from there a little bit. Got into some Chris Lowry smart money stuff. After that was kind of cohesed the picture for me a little bit.
Sure.
And then we connected. I think we connected 2019.
Yeah,
so
that sounds about right.
Trading for about 5 years. Yeah.
Okay.
And now I'm here.
So what made you gravitate towards the intraday futures trading type of vibe compared to, you know, trading penny stocks or crypto in general?
Yeah, penny stocks versus futures is a totally different game, and crypto. Crypto kept me up at night. Yep. And that was killing me. Penny stocks, penny stocks is legit. I mean, if I had a good strategy around penny stocks, that could be a place that I revisit someday. But futures, number one, was tied to prop firms.
Yep. And
I really like the prop firm setup. I think that was the number one thing. And then obviously like the liquidity and the volume, you can't beat it. So I'd say those two factors. I also like the fact that the contract price was constant, no matter where the price went, the value, of your trade was the same.
Yep.
And for some reason, I like that too.
Yeah, very cut and dry. That's definitely one of the things that resonated with me is I didn't realize how much potential there was in futures until I really, just like opened up a sim account and threw on a trade and saw, how NQ moved or even ES. It's hard to compare with any other, non-US index futures asset, that's for sure. So that is very interesting. The next question that I am curious about is what brought you, and I guess I'll preface this with This is an idea, the hot seat in general, was an idea that we've had for a while, and we've been, throwing back and forth and, discussing it in passing conversation and things of that nature. But you were actually the one that brought it up to me to kind of, not even revamp it, but actually, light the fire under me and make it happen. So I'm curious what made you do that and take that. I don't know if leap of faith is the best way to put it, but putting yourself out there. I'm curious, was there any specific moment, or was it kind of just like a culmination of your experience up to this point that you needed more accountability or something along those lines?
Yeah, I think it was probably a combo of talking to my boy JJ, who had he was kind of leading, or is sort of trading in front of a group, not quite like we do, more sharing plans and things like that. But we talked about the accountability that created for him when you're responsible for a team.
Yep.
Obviously, the hot seat, you're not responsible for a team, but I knew when we were having that conversation that it was something that was needed. And I can't say, kind of like you said, it was a little more ambiguous. I can't say exactly why I knew that. I mean, number one, for anyone who's kind of, read any sort of books on the science of flow state, or, how to really challenge yourself or grow outside of your boundaries, the first lesson is you have to be uncomfortable.
Yep.
And you have to be outside of your comfort zone. This is a bigger leap than I think what they suggest, but it just felt right. We had been talking about it, and I knew I had enough confidence in where I was at as a trader that whatever difficulties it brought up, which were somewhat predictable and also somewhat surprising, that I would be okay with it.
Yeah.
I knew I was ready. So I'm in it to win it. I mean, I'm here to 100% be a professional, and I think that's going to take that. We always talk about, like you and I talk about, like the last mile, the last 5% of your growth is the hardest, and it sometimes, not for everybody, and I'm only talking for myself, can take something out of the box or somewhat extraordinary to push through whatever resistance that is, or whatever blind spot you got. And
yep.
I think the hot seat is a blind spot exposer, which is incredibly valuable to me. I think that's a unique tool anytime you get something like that.
Yep. Yeah, I totally agree. And that was a very similar, pretty much the same experience for myself. And I think that goes for, 90-95% of traders, as far as that last little bit where you feel that you are so close is one of the most difficult spots to be in, because it kind of feels like, you're chipping away at a wall over and over again. And it doesn't necessarily feel like you're making measurable progress all the time. Sometimes it even feels like you're taking step backs, like, you do something really silly that you would imagine you've worked past, and you find yourself repeating a similar mistake that you've made in the past that makes you wonder, am I really making progress? And the answer, in my opinion, is a resounding yes, but it's more smaller tweaks that are a lot of times harder to address or pinpoint, especially if you don't have somebody to look at your trading or talk to and, kind of work with in regards to understanding that you're not alone in that experience, and that it's extremely common. Like working through that last little bit is probably the toughest parts, because it's a lot more granular, I guess, for lack of a better way to put it. A lot of people are just focusing on, too many things, or they don't have as clear of a system as they might think. And I'm very glad that you brought that up, because that's something that, I've been talking about a lot recently in my recent content, is that it's hard to know when you are, so zoned in on your own performance and you don't have any outside feedback. So I think that's another thing that's amazing about the hot seat, is that there's no hiding anything, for better or for worse. And I think in the long run, it is, only for the better, because you do get that exposure, like you said. So with that, what do you think, if you can, kind of quantify, what do you think are the most valuable takeaways that you've had from your experience in the hot seat?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. I mean, trading is kind of like, it's like pulling out a nose hair. You know what I mean? And you just rip at that sucker and you're ripping and you're ripping and you're getting teary eyed and everything hurts.
Yep.
And the people in the car next to you are staring at you and you're still going for it. And you're just determined. Lights turning green, turns yellow, turns red, you're still ripping at it. And then eventually you just imagine someday that sucker's going to get popped right out and like the relief is going to be amazing.
Yep.
So the hot seat was like the tweezers. I saw that in my mind. Like I could just grab them and like, go for it. And what it brought up for me in that process of like the continual day-to-day, like, I mean, I'm kind of being serious, like the pain of like not hitting your head against the wall or tweaking at that hair is you really see like alone, or even I've done a little like been with a coach or done a seminar here or there.
Yep.
You get some exposure as to what you're doing wrong. But I think what I do like 9 days, I think I did 9 days. In the window that I did, I saw so clearly things about my system and then things about my mindset.
Yep.
And, we talk a lot about how mindset is like, the system is like the football field that everybody sees. And then the mindset is like the invisible football field that you don't know you're playing on.
Yeah.
And for me, it was very clear that I was being a people pleaser growing up as a kid and whatnot. Like that doesn't show up when you're trading alone. And also as an adult, I don't really see it a whole lot in my regular life, although it's there. It's always there in the background. That came up because I was trading in front of people. I cared about what people thought. I cared about looking good. I cared about showing people like, how good I was or how good I could be or all that nonsense. And then I saw cracks in my game just from a technical standpoint. And actually like the last 2 days, I've just been in the lab, like back testing and doing just a crazy amount of work, basically fine tuning these details that I had kind of either got lazy about or just ignored or didn't realize that I wasn't seeing.
Yeah.
I mean, it illuminated everything. It basically is like looking at yourself in a microscope and getting this huge view of, the real detailed world and inner workings that are going on all the time that either you don't bother looking at or you just don't have the tools to see because you're by yourself.
Yeah.
And you can't really explain it until you've done it, but it's not like it's hard to wrap your head around the concept. It is that, but the experience is where you gain the knowledge. That's where it drops from the head and enters the bones and the marrow, and you start to really own the understanding around what it is you need to do to really get to where you want to be. That is really what I feel like it gave me. And this sounds like hyperbole, but I mean, I'm being honest. Like, I think this experience, I'm curious to see where I'm at in a month. Let's put it that way. Amen. Even in a couple of weeks. I think this experience might have been something that it's not a fix, because we talk about this too. The whole thing's a journey. There's a million levels out there, a million mountains for me to fall down.
Yeah.
But I'm just excited to see where I'm at in like a month.
So it's very interesting because, the things that I always call cliche, I suppose, for lack of a better term, are what show themselves very, very clearly when you put yourself out there in front of a group, even if it's, in front of people that you talk to and you trade with on a daily basis, or are at the very least, in the live stream. It's interesting what a different feeling it is. And I'm speaking from experience now, because when I started to live stream my own trading, I felt some very similar things where I felt, it was accountability, but it was, understanding that people are joining and watching not for entertainment, but to, learn more about their own trading journey and help themselves grow, as far as, not even just from a technical perspective, but how I manage my mindset when I take losses, and how, we usually impulsively react when we're trading alone, not in front of a bunch of people, versus when we're trading in front of, a group of our peers. We are much more, perhaps even hesitant to take our good setups and to take setups in general, because there is, a little bit of fear or, whatever you want to call it, about making a mistake. And I'm curious if that's something that you experience. Were you trading less because you were more heavily focused on making sure that you didn't, become impulsive or make lower probability decisions? Or would you say there was a pretty close similarity between how you were trading by yourself versus how you were trading on the live stream?
Yeah, and I actually want to get your feedback on that too, because for me, it did start off that way for sure. I was in the way that it showed up was that I was missing easy setups that I would normally take because I was being so cautious. And then, my timing was off. I'd be aggressive on setups that I normally wouldn't take.
Gotcha.
And I was trying to calibrate, like it was between trying to look like I was trading responsibly, so looking good, I guess, versus the accountability that comes in around I need to trade responsibly. Like those two things were competing. And then I noticed that after maybe day 5 or 6, I would even I would tilt a little bit and still trade. Like the fear had kind of subsided, which I was okay with because I didn't want it to be a trick. Like just the fear of not looking good being the reason why I was trading well.
For sure.
And that's what I wanted to ask you about. Did you notice that when your fear subsided, that any of the bad habits came back and you kind of had to check yourself again? Or did you go through any adjustment? There's the adjustment when you start, but then there's the adjustment when you get comfortable. And I'm wondering if that secondary adjustment happened for you.
Absolutely. I think as I got more and more comfortable, I became not like overall more cavalier, but there were times it was easier for me to allow myself to be more cavalier and, get myself into lower probability setups. And that's something that actually helped me a lot was, when I first started to get more comfortable, I did indeed increase first, like you said, my trade amount or my trade total was minimal comparatively because I was being very, very careful. And like you said, I was missing some of my good setups just purely because, I didn't want to make a mistake in front of a bunch of people. And I realized that, as I got more comfortable, I would start to go on tilt from time to time. And that actually was a big benefit because it helped me practice controlling that. Whereas if I was trading alone by myself, maybe I would continue to trade or revenge trade or, put on more size when I shouldn't and losing trades, all the bad habits that most people experience. But I realized that this was an opportunity for me to practice controlling and understanding my emotions and, furthermore, showing people how that's possible. So it really helped me especially learn that less is more and how important taking breaks were. One thing that the live stream in general helped me with so much was just taking a break and walking away, whether it's 5 minutes, going to make some tea or taking the rest of the day off after trading, poorly and being okay with that and showing people, hey, first and foremost, I'm human. Any trader is going to have to allow for, bad trading or losing days in their system. And it's really just all about managing those days. I think that's the most important thing as traders is, we can take really good setups. We can build up our P&L. We can have a great equity curve. But on the one day or even the one trade where it's a good setup and it goes against us, that's a lot of times where we start to mess up and where we start to kind of lose grip on our edge. So I realized that not only was it helpful for people to watch me take high probability setups and things of that nature, but it was arguably even more helpful, and this is based on feedback that I've gotten, for people to see me start to trade poorly, quickly recognize that as fast as I could and do something about it, like walk away or bring up, that trade or that series of trades to light and break it down on stream and say, hey, this was a cavalier or an impulsive entry. I probably should have waited for candlestick structure here, or, I front ran the oscillators, or I was anticipating something to happen that I didn't wait for confirmation for. And it really just allowed me to be more okay with losing. And, having that as a part of my system that is indeed profitable. And one thing I'm going to shout out Best Loser Wins and Tom Hugard in this video, because what would this first podcast be if I didn't? He talks about in the book how it's so important to embrace failure. And again, another cliche, but it's really true. We learn from our failures, and breaking that down in front of a group of our peers is super powerful. So that's, I would say, once I got through the initial increased comfort level of taking more trades and even being more cavalier, just putting myself out there as far as showing people that losing is okay, and that controlling the losses is really the biggest thing, because we know that most people can make winning trades. Most people win more than they lose, but their losers are, much bigger than their winners. And that's where a lot of people start to blow their account and things of that nature. So that was a big game changer for me. And I think that that's going to be a very common experience on the hot seat.
Yeah. To your point, like, that is something I thinking back to 2019, I remember that about you. I noticed early on how well you took breaks, because I remember thinking, man, you probably should try some of that break stuff. and then I was like, nah, it's all right. I'll just sit here and blow this account up.
It's difficult because, especially on stream, and this is for, even not streaming, I feel like when we're going through the journey of becoming traders, that we feel like we need to be at the charts like as much as humanly possible, and we need to get as much or as many reps in as possible, which is true to a certain extent. But I feel like once you start to understand the technicals, it kind of shifts to understanding yourself and understanding, how your brain works. And for me, like, just realizing, hey, I actually don't need to be at the charts for, 3+ hours looking for setups. If I can't get the job done in the first hour or two of the open, typically I'm just not trading as well as I usually do. And that took me a long time to understand that, again, less is more. And having that responsibility, or the feeling of being responsible for being on stream and saying, oh, there are a bunch of people watching me, I better keep trading, or I better give them something to watch. It's, that flipped the script for me, because I realized that I was showing people that, again, taking time away from the screens and understanding when it's time to, not necessarily be on the edge of your seat, but be in setup stalking mode versus, being in just pure observation mode and talking about the markets without continuing to trade. So that's a big thing that was a shift for me. Was, I sit down, I trade for maybe an hour or two a day, and I'll still stay on stream, but I won't be looking for setups anymore. Even if there are setups continually happening, it was almost like an exercise for me to be okay with watching all of that opportunity pass me by, and understanding that I'm done for the day. I have taken a solid amount of trades, whether, my P&L is green or red. Knowing when to stop, I think, is one of the most difficult things for most people. And, I think the hot seat is a really valuable area to learn, when it's time to look for setups, when it's time to get into your best trades, check the boxes, if you will, and also when it's time to leave, not forcing yourself to just stick around and click buttons because you feel obligated to.
Well, that's a really, by the way, I think I've developed this fear that I'm going to fall outside of my box during this interview. I keep like looking right at my.
Nah, you're good.
Gotta stay in the lines, man. But there's it's kind of like the Good Will Hunting scene when Robin Williams is talking to Matt Damon at the lake, and he's just breaking his ass down about, you can read every book or whatever, but you I forget what the line is, but you're inside, you've never been to Rome and seen the painting or whatever he was talking about. But basically it was like, you can have the knowledge, but you don't have the experience.
Yep.
Right. I just butchered that quote, but you know what I'm saying? So that is kind of what, you hear a lot of professional traders like yourself talk about. And it's in that area where you're like, taking breaks falls into that category. It doesn't seem like it does.
Yeah.
But it absolutely does, where it's a physical experience. And it's not just the experience of taking one break. It's the experience of feeling the the fight or flight impulse to stay in a trade.
Yep.
And overcoming that fear or that anger and being able to walk away repeatedly. That is one of those experiences that Robin Williams was talking about, where like I can read as many books as I want, I can watch as many videos as I want, but until I do it over and over and over, I really won't know what people are talking about. But when you can watch a peer do it, you know, in the same, like in TTN, where we can, you know, do it together, or watch you walk away. That's the closest thing. That's about as close as you can get to not doing it yourself.
Yeah.
But getting an understanding of what it really is like, because you could experience someone, you know, turning their mic off or walking away or coming back after an hour, and you're like, okay, yeah, they really did. They walked away. That stood out to me even more than the trading at the time, because that was way, it's I don't know, it is so much easier to recognize the setup and press the button. It is infinitely harder, and to me, what separates the 90% and the 10% to walk away and to know when to stop, and to know like you're not gonna, and then to overcome the pain avoidance of, I don't need to fix this problem, this like loss, this pain, I need to fix it right now, and I'm gonna fix it in the next like 3 minutes. To overcome that is what makes a pro. And that's why I wanted to be in the hot seat, because I knew that the pain would be worse when my ego was on display. I knew that the pain and the embarrassment and all those emotions would be much, much worse. And I think it was a success, even though I think my P&L was probably a little negative after 9 days, or maybe even. I think I tilted and still traded. Like I didn't win the hot seat. I definitely, you know, I came away with a very checkered scorecard. I think I definitely, but that was really what I wanted anyway. I knew I wasn't a perfect trader. I knew I had demons to expose.
Yep.
But I'm also excited that it's like, you know, my horizons have been stretched in a way. Like, you know, what's possible has become bigger, and what's possible, meaning like what I can actually see is possible, not like what can I imagine, but what can I actually feel is possible, has that sphere has grown because of the experience. So there's things to clean up, yes, but I don't know. I think that after that, I realized, okay, there are things that I need to fix, but I can definitely fix them, and I can see myself doing these very difficult things that we're talking about, like walking away, a lot more plausibly now after the hot seat.
Sounds like it was a win, regardless of the P&L.
Definitely. Oh, 100%. I mean, the experience is a 100% win. It is, if it's something that sounds good, I would recommend it 1,000%. It is a, you know, it's a win. It's a win to be that uncomfortable.
Yep. Yeah. I almost
Always.
feel like, and it's going to be interesting to get feedback from, you know, more traders that come on the hot seat, but I'm going to guess that more is going to be taken away from the traders that don't trade as well. Whereas, you know, traders that come onto the hot seat and maybe they kill it their entire time, you know, it's going to be beneficial, but it could be, you know, kind of boosting the ego a little bit more than helping folks learn. And
that's a great point.
That's
a great point.
That is what losing on stream did for me, you know, because like, it feels great to, you know, take good trades and make money in front of a bunch of people, and they're all like gassing you up and congratulating you on your great trade, or saying, oh, I wish I could make that, you know, P&L, or I wish my P&L was at that level today. But I feel like for me, it was an even more valuable experience. And still every single day, like if I have a losing day or I take several losing trades in a row, it's so valuable for me to, you know, kind of reel it in and tell myself, hey, this is why you stream. It's so you can show not only other people that are watching you, but show yourself that there is another way, and that there is a right way, I suppose you could say, you know, of managing your risk, managing your emotions, and just going back to the, you know, the walking away part. I think that, you know, in theory, it sounds so easy. Like, yeah, I'll just take a break every 5 trades, or every, you know, two losing trades or something like that, but it's really like a slow process of understanding what triggers you to do, what most traders do, which is add the losing
Yeah,
trades
yeah,
and,
yeah.
double down or pull your stop away and just hope that it reverses in your direction or whatever. And
Yeah.
that is that's a very interesting thing that I was thinking about. It's everything is so easy in theory. Like you said, you can read a million books, but until you put yourself in the hot seat or until you record yourself trading and watch yourself do really, really silly things that we know in theory are totally wrong, that's when it becomes like, okay, how did I get to this spot? What emotions led me to double down, move my stop, whatever. And that, I think, is something that's really important as traders to study ourselves. We have to learn and try to analyze, and it's really hard to like try to pinpoint what emotions you're feeling before you go on tilt, or pinpoint those physical triggers. Like I say it in some of my videos. For me, I like bounce my legs and I'll like click the mouse incessantly or like move the mouse around really fast, and there's like these little weird quirks that come as foreshadowing to me doing dumb things in the market. And I think that that's probably one of the hardest things for most people to figure out. And that's why I always suggest people to, even if you're not, in TTN or anything like that, which I obviously recommend you join the community, but record yourself, record your face. And that was a big thing for me before I even started live streaming. I started recording my face, and I have a recording, which I will probably put on YouTube at some point, where I went on tilt, and it was disgusting to watch myself. You could like see it in my posture. You could hear it in my voice. You could tell in my tone of voice. I was, swearing the market up and down. And I think we have to see that side of ourselves to understand how easy it is and how quickly we can, go from having a plan and trading our edge to being impulsive and losing control.
Yeah.
So that's a big factor, I would say.
That's a really good point. I mean, I trade in a Batman cowl, so it's hard for me to do that and to read my emotion. But one of the things I wanted to say to what you just said is just being totally vulnerable. So this is now me kind of opening the book on my experience about me as a person and how I'm built, and this won't be relevant to other people who are not built in the same way.
Yep.
I'm interested in, I love to coach. We talked about this. Like someday I want to help people on their journey, whether it's trading or life or what have you. Coach, mentor, all those things. And at the same time, I'm competitive, sports growing up, yada, yada, yada. And what I saw towards the end was this was not a conscious motivator going into this whatsoever, but it was like a harmonic echoing in the background of my mind throughout the process, which was when you were talking about like if you were good the whole time, if you traded well, you may not get as much out of it. I wanted to trade well because I wanted to be seen as not only a good trader, but maybe someone who's like a leader in the group or a successful trader that could help other people or whatever, like something in that realm, right?
Yeah.
And I think I even finished on like my last day was the biggest turd of all, I think. And I'm really glad it was, because if I had walked away like, crushing it, be like, nah, the other days were just an anomaly. This one day was the right one.
Yep.
It's so easy to dismiss all the gold nuggets that I got from the experience and the process. And again, this may not apply to everybody, but when you're alone, all those triggers you're talking about, those are triggers for tilt and whatnot, right? But if you are someone who is affected by peer group, community, other people, being in the hot seat brings up things that you could argue, like, would those even be factors if you were trading alone?
Yeah.
Well, number one, I'm interested in doing that again. So I think it's good to not trade in a vacuum. But number two, I would argue yes. It's just that it's possible, and I'm still kind of trying to figure this out for myself. But I think that those things that don't seem like they would apply to me being alone just show up in totally different ways that I had no idea were even there. Like, for example, like looking good, that doesn't make sense necessarily when you're trading alone, unless subconsciously or consciously somewhere in the background, you're thinking about how you're going to tell someone about how much you crushed it today.
Yep.
Or like, you can't wait to like rub it in your parents' face that like you really know what you're doing, or your partner or whatever, or you have buddies that trade and they're killing it, and you want to just join that group and be able to be like, yeah, I'm killing it too.
Totally.
So really, you're not trading alone. You're trading with all those things you're chasing in your mind, and those people that are the holograms in your head that you're talking to or seeing that you don't even realize you're having conversations with. And for me, that all materialized and became real in the hot seat, but I think they existed before. So I was able to distinguish this idea that not only was I dealing with my tilt, but there's this, in the 100% ego realm, there's this like, narrative playing out about in the future what I'm going to do when I get there, or what I'm going to do with my success that I wasn't even totally aware of, that had to do with 100% other people, which polluted my own process and polluted my ability to trade purely and trade in the way that I know that I'm meant to trade, which, again, every good teacher out there will tell you is a battle with your ego, and you don't want to ever trade with your ego. You don't want to ever trade from those emotions and from those chemicals or whatever, however you distinguish that. So just kind of bringing it full circle, like anything that illuminates those things working against you or working against your trading is to me an invaluable tool, and that's what hot seat is. That's how I see it.
Amen. That's awesome, man. I first and foremost, I just want to thank you for not only coming into the hot seat, and I know it's a little bit different when you come into a group of people that you're even relatively familiar with. Like I know a lot of the people that are in the live stream and things of that nature. So I want to thank you for not only doing that, but also being vulnerable with this podcast and being the first one to come on and talk about your experience and really put it all out there. I know that this is something that is uncomfortable, and that is certainly the point. And I commend you for just taking that step and pushing yourself. Like you said, you have to make yourself uncomfortable if you want to grow. It's cheesy and cliche, but it's so true, and that's where I found the most growth in my journey as well. So with that said, I think that this has been a really informative session, a really, really important chat that I hope a lot of people find value in. And I will say that I do not think this is the last time that folks will see you here on the podcast. So I think that we can probably wrap it up here. But I just want to thank you for your time and, really, again, commend you for the vulnerability. That's something that's so important in the journey of trading. Again, whether or not you're streaming in front of a community of traders, but just kind of leaning into your pain and leaning into your struggles and understanding that, again, that's how most people grow. That's where the change is really made. And there is absolutely no doubt in my mind that you, sir, BuddhaJones, are going to continue to grow as a trader. And I'm just stoked to continue to see your growth and work with you as we, trade together in the trading network and build together. So with that, I want to thank all of you guys for taking the time. Buddha, if you have any final words, please feel free to let the people know. But I think that this has been an awesome and very, very valuable podcast, and looking forward to getting everybody's feedback on it as well.
Yeah, I just want to give a quick shout out to first you, Zach, for the opportunity. Thank you for sharing space, allowing me to take up some of your bandwidth in TTN and do that. I totally. genuinely appreciate that.
Yeah, man.
And just for creating the community. Shout out to Crown for what he does.
Shout out to Eric Crown, Crown's Crypto Cave. Check it out.
Crown's Crypto Cave. Check it out for sure. Shout out to Punks, Monkey, Alex Switch, the OGs.
Whole squad.
In TTN, CJ, you know who you are.
Hell yeah.
And all the rest, anyone I missed. And yeah, just I appreciate it, man. I hope we get to do more stuff in the future. But either way, if you get anyone out there gets an opportunity to jump in the hot seat, I highly recommend it.
Amen. If you guys want to, in closing, if you guys want to learn more about the hot seat or joining our community, I would recommend checking out either the links in the description below or head over to thetradingnetwork.io where you can learn more information. But other than that, thank you guys again for your time. As always, I greatly appreciate it, and I will see you in the next video. Cheers.